Oh,
John.
boy.
John, I thought of a funny way of combining the words hello and Oathbringer.
Okay.
Hellothbringer.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for listening, everybody. This has been Sam and John's Book Club.
Welcome to Sam and John's Book Club. We do book talk about book.
Yep.
So far, we've done exclusively Brandon Sanderson book, which has been very pleasant.
And that
Specifically, Brandon
will
Sanderson
continue.
Cosmere book. Specifically, Stormlight Archive book.
Yes.
We've finished The Way of Kings, which was excellent. We
Mhm.
finished Words of Radiance, which was pretty darn good.
Right.
Like, I mean, it was excellent. It was excellent.
Also
it was
excellent, just less excellent than Way of Kings.
I prefer The Way of Kings, but that's just me.
Yeah.
We even did Edge Dancer, and whoo-hoo-wee, that was some wild. We learned all about a little girl. She loved pancake.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's time for Oathbringer.
Yep. Oh, boy.
We've just read through the first 10 chapters. If you haven't read those yet, go ahead and read them before we talk.
Yeah, it was
Unless
a
you're just
nice-
using this as like a refresher.
A nice even 105 or so pages. Nice chunky little section. Not too bad.
Little chunk. It's a chonker.
So here's a weird thing that I noticed immediately when I started reading was, so I'm reading all the books in print. Sam's listening to all of them, right?
Yes.
And I make sure whenever I get a new book that it's the same size, right? They come in different sizes. And
Mhm.
so Oathbringer was the same size as my other two, but the font is definitely smaller.
Oh, okay.
Which is weird. So, like, this has got to be the longest book by a long shot because it looks like it's bigger than both Way of Kings and Words of Radiance, and the font is smaller.
Well, we're doing it in the same number of readings, so
Okay.
we're going to just be reading more each week if that's the case.
Yeah. It's just funny. I'm like, did they just reach a point where they were making the small book and they were like, this is getting so big, we have to make the font smaller or something. Also,
Yeah.
it's like, and this is just, I don't know who's responsible for this, the manufacturer, I guess, but some of the pages are like, the font, or the words are just like askew a little bit. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, no, that sucks.
Yeah. It's like on like every right page, and it's like just a little bit, just enough to notice it.
Dang, yeah, just a slight little manufacturing error.
Yeah, but whatever.
Whoopsie daisy.
Yeah.
Well, hey, let's get into Oathbringer. We'll be reading this for the next couple of months, and we'll be finishing it just very shortly before Rhythm of War comes out, and then we'll go through that one as well. Very exciting stuff.
Yeah, I think we have, like a 2-week buffer between this and book 4?
Yeah, a little 2-week buffer. We'll do a bonus book in there.
Sure.
Yeah, though, Hot Dog, we're starting out with a prologue,
Mhm.
and as every book has so far started out, this prologue is taking place on the night Gavilar was killed from the perspective of a character from which we have not yet seen their perspective.
Right.
In this case, Eshonai.
Yeah. Which kind of makes sense, because we were sort of running out of perspectives of Alethi on this night. I'm curious to see if this trend will continue into book 4.
Well, I mean, we still got Amaram. Dalinar was there.
That's true. Amaram's a good point.
Gavilar. We haven't seen Gavilar's perspective.
Yeah.
Although we're kind of getting it from everybody else's. I
Right.
guess even Sadius.
I'm just...
Although I'm doubtful we'll ever see his perspective.
Yeah, I'm just saying by book like 10, it'll be like a waiter. He was like, "Oh man, Gavilar's murdered. Whew, jeez," and that'll be like the whole
Yeah.
prologue.
I wonder if my running theory right now is that Brandon Sanderson has said that it's the whole story across all 10 books is kind of going to be in 2 acts.
Yep.
The first 5 and the second 5.
Yeah.
I'm kind of guessing that in the first 5, it's all going to be this night from different characters' perspectives.
Mhm.
And then in the second set of 5, he's probably going to stop doing this. It's probably
Yeah.
going to be something else.
Yeah, I that would make sense to me too. Seems like a
Because
good breaking
I
point.
feel like by the time we've gone through this night a few more times, we're going to have a pretty complete picture. But
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong.
Right,
Maybe
it'll
there's more
probably
to
be
it.
like Gavilar in book 5, and maybe Amaram or somebody. But
Yeah, I don't know.
kind of running out after that. But
so-
anyway, Eshonai.
Eshonai, she used to be a little, scout girl
Mhm.
who just ran around wanting to map stuff, kind of being a scoundrel, a bit of a scamp,
Mhm. Yep.
And, since we've seen her, she has been very, very in charge, very responsible.
Yep.
So this is a pretty stark contrast to that.
Yeah, she's she is now kind of like even before she took Stormform was kind of the like unofficial leader outside of the 5, but even the 5.
Well,
kind
she
of
was the
stopped her.
general. She was their general
Right.
straight up and down.
Yeah. And
the
in this
Parshendi.
it's like not nearly as important.
Yeah. So, she and the listeners have gone to Gavilar's palace to do this whole treaty thing.
Yep.
However, she ends up kind of getting away from the group and peeking through a door and seeing Gavilar in there talking to some, important folks.
Mm-hmm.
And she is beckoned inside for a private conversation, which, unbeknownst to Gavilar at the time, was just a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Just really, really bad.
Real bad choice, yep.
And this was a little bit interesting to me. He explains to her that, hey, we trap Spren in gems. That's actually how all Fabrials work.
Mm-hmm.
Have we heard that before? Has that been confirmed for us that Fabrials work by just trapping Spren in gems?
I don't think so. I think that was new information. Not particularly surprising, I guess, but...
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
Kind of mean though, a little bit.
Yeah, it seems pretty inhumane, I guess.
Yeah. He specifically brings up that, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I believe he says that Parshmen exist because one of the Unmade was trapped in a gem, or some Spren was trapped in a gem, and maybe I just inferred it was one of the Unmade.
Oh, maybe. I don't remember that, but...
You don't remember something like that?
No.
That seemed really... and then he showed her that black gem, which he ended up giving to Zeth later, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And my suspicion is that one of the Unmade is trapped in that gem right now.
That makes sense.
Hot diggity dog. He tells her, Eshonai, that, yep, I am bringing your gods back.
Yep.
Right? Now, this was something I wondered about earlier, because that was the justification that Parshendi gave for having Gavilar killed, was that he was going to bring their gods back.
Right.
But I was always like, well, why do they think that, was that a miscommunication? And now I'm like, no, that was not a miscommunication.
Black and white, Gavilar straight up told him that.
He was definitely going to do that, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yikes.
And so he was kind of in the same camp as like Amaram, really, where he's like, "Yep, we're gonna bring him back. It's gonna happen eventually. Like we gotta get this started, get the ball rolling, because the desolation's coming."
Yeah, now it kind of seems like Amaram is just carrying Gavilar's torch after his death. Straight up.
Right.
Which was surprising to me for sure.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah, Gavilar is like, he's been pretty shrouded in mystery. I even remember in the first book, you were like, "I'm so excited to hear more about him." And in this, we're like, oh, yeah, I guess he was just of the opinion that bringing the Voidbringers first was the way to go.
Yep. I mean, geez. She goes off, talks to the Council of the Five. We learned that one of them, Clade, who went out and bought a slave just to, for the novelty of it, to see if you actually could, ended up coming to own Zeth. Yep. In that manner, right? Which is all kind of random and just lucky.
Right.
I think he actually said something about how he heard a voice in his head speaking to the rhythms that directed him to buy Zeth specifically.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
So I'll be interested to hear where that voice came from later.
Yeah.
Either way, yeah, these guys just kind of got Zeth. At first maybe it seems like by good luck, but actually it was by the machinations of this mysterious voice. And eventually brought him to kill Gavilar, so...
Yeah. And it's kind of weird when you, step back and look at the big picture, right? Because Gavilar is like, yep, we're bringing back the Voidbringers, right? Or your gods, whatever. And Eshonai's like, oh, we cannot have that happen. And the Five are like, yep, definitely can't have that happen. And then they kill Gavilar, which starts this whole war between the two of them, which one thing leads to another. They bring back the Voidbringers by taking on Stormform, which I'm not positive those two things are the same, but they seem equally bad for everybody. So not a great course of events.
It seems like it was doomed to happen one way or the other. Right.
Yeah, it was inevitable.
So, yikes. And now we're done with the prologue, onto chapter 1.
Yeah.
And guess who's dead, and now everybody knows it. Is that this chapter?
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's right at the end. It's revealed that Taurus Sadius is dead. Up to this point, they're kind of just struggling with the, having moved into Urithiru now. It's not, it had farms there once, it looks like, but they're certainly no longer functional, right? It's it's not in a state where it can support a whole bunch of people, several armies.
I mean, it's essentially an entire small kingdom moving into a ghost town and just making it work. And I mean, as far as ghost towns go, Urithiru is pretty much S tier, but even still. So yeah, they're still exploring the hallways. There's a ton of it that nobody has even seen yet. It's just this massive, confusing place.
Dalinar is having a vision with Stormfather, which he is now very in control of, having bonded the Stormfather.
Yeah.
He is becoming more just determined to unite the monarchs of the world.
Right. The whole
which he, Unite them for him used to mean the High Princes,
Yep.
right? Now it means literally all of
Planet.
Roshar.
Yeah.
Which is, somewhat ambitious, and we happen to know for a fact that at least Taravangian is already very, very opposed to that happening.
Yep.
Well, actually, Taravangian wants that to happen,
But
he just wants to be in charge instead of Dalinar.
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll see how that works out. Also, when Dalinar is in his vision, he decides to, like, let the storm hit him in his vision.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
And within the storm, he sees a figure bathed in golden light with 9 shadows,
And
which the
black
Stormfather
armor.
tells him is Odium, and each of those 9 shadows represents one of the Unmade,
Right.
which he calls Odium's servants. So now we know there are 9 Unmade, which I don't think we knew before.
And I think that's Odium's champion, not Odium himself. That he sees
sure.
In the storm, yeah. When whoever it was, I think it was the Stormfather or somebody in the visions was like, you have to hope he accepts a fight with champions instead of, whatever the alternative would be. So it looks like this is, in fact, his champion, real scary looking dude.
Now, who do you think the champion's going to be?
For the good
Of
guys?
the good guys.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be a main character, right? But, well, I suppose it doesn't have to be.
Probably Kaladin,
Probably
right?
Kaladin. Yeah, it's got to be. He's like the mainest
Maybe.
of the main characters.
I feel like it's not going to be Dalinar.
No, I don't think it could be
Because
Dalinar.
Stormfather said he's not going to manifest as a sword or anything, right?
Right, yeah, that's kind of a non-starter for being a champion.
And
for
like,
this
I mean,
sort
it's
of
been a
role.
big part of Dalinar's, he keeps saying that he's no longer a warrior, he's a politician now, right?
Yeah,
And that's his
yeah.
focus.
Yeah. Yeah, probably
Um,
Kaladin. That's my guess. It's going to
Well,
be Zahel. There we go.
All right, Zyle.
Yeah.
Interesting. We'll see.
That's my theory, and I'm
Not gonna
it.
discount that outright, but
All right.
not confident.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next chapter. Sadius dead. That happened at the end of the last book.
Right.
Adolin stabbed a knife right up into his brain.
Yep.
Wiggled it around a little bit, and that tends to kill people. So
Right. Yeah.
here we
And
are.
Nobody was around to see it. No witnesses. And he took Oathbringer, the sword that was originally Dalinar's that Sadius had, just kind of threw it over a ledge to hide it, and just left him there. And so now he's been discovered. Oh boy, and that's going to start some conflict.
Yep. I mean, Sadius had obviously been a big catalyst for everything anti-Dalinar.
Yeah.
The thing is that the Sadius camp, the pro-Sadius camp, still like exists, right?
Yeah.
And they're clearly going to use this. I mean, Sadius might end up being sort of a martyr for them, even, right?
Right. And they're just going to use that to further undermine Dalinar's authority, was Sadius' whole deal anyway.
Yeah, and Dalinar, is saying that like, this isn't going to be men versus men. This is going to be all of humanity united against this one foe. And say what you will about Sadius, but he was a good general, right?
Right.
So Dalinar is saying that Sadius' death is a great loss, and everyone else is kind of like, well,
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, everybody else is like, kind of cool that he's dead. Yeah, I get that you have to be Dalinar about this. That's fine.
yeah. In a wacky Death Note kind of twist of fate, Adolin is placed in charge of the investigation into who killed Sadius.
Yep. Yeah, they find out. So this is in the last chapter, but yeah, they find somebody else, some just like minor dude who's been murdered in exactly the same way. Left.
Oh yeah.
His corpse in exact same position, murdered by the same process. And
Yep.
of course, Adolin doesn't know anything about this, so he's like, yeah, I guess that's got to be the same killer. And Dalinar's like, you're in charge now. And he's like, I am. Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So there's some sort of copycat murderer.
Right.
But
yeah.
like that's very mysterious, right? Because
Right.
this corpse of Sadius was like just found.
Mm-hmm.
So who could have known?
All right. And what is?
Unless it's Adolin, and maybe we're having the thing that happened in one of the seasons of American Horror Story,
Okay.
where the main character ended up being the serial killer he was investigating, but he didn't know it.
Okay. A Dr. Jekyll and
'Cause-
Mr. Hyde sort of situation.
Sort of. He was just kind of crazy. Honestly, it was. I don't like that show very much, but hey.
Yeah. To each their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's Adolin. But it does make me wonder, like, who is the person? Why are they doing it? And if Adolin eventually figures out who it is and catches them, it's really easy to just pin Sadius' death on him too and kind of get off scot-free. I mean, he already has
For sure,
being in charge of the investigation, but like
Maybe this is a
whole
lucky
new-
break for
Yeah.
for Adolin.
Like the fact that there's a murderer running around, not good, very mysterious. But for Adolin, it kind of works out.
Yeah. Sadiat, or rather Sabariel, has ended up kind of, just becoming one of the most important people in Yurthiru and therefore eventually in the world, probably.
Yep.
Just because he kind of decided to become Dalinar's ally, like, right before this big climactic battle in the last book.
And he already decided back in the camps to sort of focus more on making, like, a permanent, the Shattered Plains a permanent place of, like, commerce and stuff.
Yeah, so he's been named the High Prince of Commerce, and he's probably a good person for the job.
Yep. So, hey, really, you're more important than Yasna gave you credit for.
And then, bada bing, bada boom, we have a flashback. And guess who's doing the flashbacks for these books?
Oh, it's Dalinar, our boy.
It's Dalinar,
our boy. Blackthorn. And oh my gosh, is he so different in this. This was like 30-something years ago?
34 years ago.
Okay, yeah. So, we see him in his heights of being a warlord, and he is a terrifying dude.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably like early 20s Dalinar, and holy moly, he is just murdering the absolute heck out of people. And then he gets shot by an arrow.
And he's like,
and goes and recruits the guy who shot him.
Yep.
I don't know. Honestly, I feel like there's not a lot to like talk about here, unless you want to talk about exactly how bloodthirsty Dalinar was.
Right. Yeah. I mean, really, the only probably long-term piece of importance from this flashback is the mention of the thrill, which we know is the effect of one of the unmade. So.
Yes.
But yeah, Dalinar, spooky dude. Flashbacks generally don't give us a ton, so we'll see what these end up providing us.
Yeah, I feel like there was nothing too important here. So hey, moving onwards. Bada bing, bada boom. The next chapter, the Everstorm is coming back. Dalinar is talking about the Stormfather and how the Everstorm is going to be like circling the Earth. This is where Navani is like, "Oh, Dalinar, take me," and he's like, "No, it's all about oaths and being honorable and stuff." And she's like, "Are you kidding me? Can we just like
call it good?
Can't we just like do sexy stuff?" And he's like, "We have to get married." And she's like, "No one will marry us." And he's like, "The Stormfather will. Like, who's gonna complain about that?"
Yeah.
And then Kadash, Dalinar's like main Ardent is like, "I'm gonna complain about that."
Yeah.
And
I always called the Ardents the Heralds by accident, and that provides a lot of confusion.
Oh, okay, yeah. The Ardentia, though... So, I mean, that happens, right? They do they get married.
Yep.
Cool. And Kadash is like, I'm going to tell the Ardentia about this. Like, Vorinism in general is going to be very displeased with you.
Right.
And, so that'll be a whole fun source of controversy.
Yeah. And he knows that the Almighty is dead, and... the Herald, the Ardent is like, that's like the most blasphemous thing you could say. He's like, well, God's not dead. The Almighty was just like an imposter. He's like, please stop talking.
Hey, no, I'm not saying God's dead. I'm saying that God never existed. You big dummy. Yeah. Yikes.
Yeah, that's bad news.
We get another reference to the fact that Dalinar can't remember his wife because of the old magic, the Night Watcher, and she's, please tell us more about the Night Watcher.
Right.
I feel like we have like a part of the story of what the Night Watcher did to multiple people, and I want to get that fleshed out for everybody. Like,
give it to me for every character. Tell me about the Night Watcher in detail, just herself. Like,
yeah, what's her deal?
Right. And
what makes her tick?
He tells Navani that he can't remember anything about his wife. She's like, I guess you did say you knew that your boon and your curse. I'm like, what's the boon though? Just tell me all the things. But whatever. Probably good.
Kadash used to be a soldier, kind of working with Dalinar.
Yep.
And Dalinar was like, come on, we were old friends, we were soldiers. And Kadash is like, don't remind me of the way you used to be. Because Dalinar was a monster, big murder man. He's saying, Kadash says, I was there with you on that day. Don't act like you can't make mistakes.
Right.
So, I'm sure we'll learn about that in another one of Dalinar's flashbacks.
Yeah. Probably not until the end of the book. We'll get a bunch of random flashbacks that don't do much in the meantime.
Yeah.
No shade, Brain of Sanda.
Well, I guess let's just keep that day, in mind. And when it comes up, it comes up. Kaladin's going. He's singing, "Take me home."
Country road.
Well, he's flying though. Country
sky to the place I was born, down in Hearthstone,
West Virginia. All right.
Hearthstone. Okay.
Kaladin, I mean, yeah, he's home, and
he
I don't know.
He has a lovely little reunion with his parents, and they're like, "Oh, thank goodness you're back. You from the army. Oh, you were a slave. Oh, you're a dangerous slave. But we'll buy you rid of slavery. Don't worry, son. We're gonna make this all go away."
Yeah, at first they're being supportive, and then Kaladin punches Rashon, and then his dad is like, "You're a killer," and Kaladin's like, "Sorry, Dad." And his mom is like, "You have a little brother now," and he's like, "Aw."
Oh, great.
And
new Tien.
He's happy about that. New Tien. Tien 2.
Yeah. And so he's like, "I'll protect you for sure. Trust me, I'm great at protecting brothers."
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like all of the Parshmen did like leave, but they didn't attack anybody.
Yep.
So that's cool.
Yeah. So Kaladin's got to track them down now, figure out what they're up to.
Yeah, we're kind of already into the next chapter. These ones kind of just flowed together.
Yeah,
there were like 3 chapters that were all kind of the same dealio, all from Kaladin's perspective.
Yep. So he reveals that he's a radiant to the whole town, you know, tells them that the Desolation's here, the Voidbringers are back, you know, hide your kids, hide your wives.
He meets Laurel, and he's like, "I was going to be a hero. I was going to save you." And Laurel's like, "I don't want to be saved, idiot. I hate you."
Leave me alone.
And Kaladin's like, "Well, geez, I hate you too." And they just kind of...
Yeah, and Syl's like, "I like her."
I'm paraphrasing, but you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Laurel's doing fine.
Geez. Kaladin goes flying off to the next town, and then the next one, and they're giving him spheres so he can keep flying around, and that's cool.
Mm-hmm. He's like a superhero now.
Yeah.
That's pretty much that whole little arc. Not a ton.
He did eventually correspond with Dalinar, and Dalinar was like, "Yeah, man, go scout out those Voidbringers. Tell us what's what."
Yep.
Kaladin's like, "We'll do, boss." And just kind of at the end of this whole first reading, Kaladin is off. Like, he actually has a lead, right, pointing him towards a group of Voidbringers, and I think now instead of going from town to town, he's decided to actually go like hunt these guys down and check in on them.
Right. He gets to a town, and they like the Voidbringers. Once they became Voidbringers, the Parshmen like broke open a silo or something and stole a bunch of grain, and that was kind of
sounds to me, John, like they did not become Voidbringers.
Yeah.
Because none of these Parshendi or Parshmen were attacking anybody, and he was talking to the people. He was like, "Did you see red lights in the storms?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, I guess we saw some red lights." And he was like, "Was it their eyes?" And they were like, "No, I don't think so."
So
right?
Probably just the lightning.
So they didn't have red eyes. They had. It might have been the red lightning spren flying around.
Right. Yeah.
Or I don't know. I don't know. Well, I guess if it was the red lightning spren, that would have turned them into Voidbringers, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Or storm form at the very least, whichever it is.
Instead, they've been taken out of dull form. Like, what's your theory?
Yeah, no longer dull form. I think they've been converted to.
Regular,
they're like not Parshmen anymore. Now they're Parshendi, but I don't know that they're evil Parshendi.
Sure. Right, they're just regular run-of-the-mill Parshendi. I like that.
Yeah, but I guess we'll find out about that soon enough.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I when they were talking about the red lights thing, I was like, huh. That's weird, and I did not read into that enough. But yeah, I guess you're right, because like, it wouldn't make sense that they're all just leaving to go somewhere after they get turned into Voidbringers. You'd think they'd like seek the ruin of everything around them. But
can we talk about something, John?
Yeah.
It was in an earlier chapter. We're past it now.
Mm-hmm.
But oh god, Dalinar was describing his sons when they were at the murder scene of Sadeas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said something like the steadfast Adolin. The impenetrable Renarin.
Yeah, I remember that.
Are you kidding me? If you asked me to describe Renarin in 1,000 words,
right,
I can guarantee you that not a single one of them would have been impenetrable.
Yeah.
And do you know what, John?
A
couple of chapters later, it was somewhere between... It was in all these Kaladin chapters where he was, doing stuff back in Hearthstone area.
Yeah.
The word impenetrable is also used to describe Syl. Which I was very aware of because I was still angry about it from Renarin.
Huh.
What happened, Brandon Sanderson? Was it...
Did you forget how to write?
Did somebody... Is it like when you learn a new word and you start using it a lot,
Yeah, that's that.
I don't know.
It does sound kind of like a case of that. I mean, if I were to do it,
neither of those characters.
Steadfast for Adolin, sure, fine.
Yes,
and then
great.
you get to Renarin, you're like the whiny and vulnerable Renarin. Like,
yeah.
The exact opposite of...
They're kind of a little baby boy Renarin.
Right.
He said it for Syl, too. Why is Syl impenetrable?
Right. What is with these people and their impenetrability?
Now, while Syl is... She's kind of ephemeral. So she might literally be impenetrable. Like, if you stabbed her, I don't think she would mind, right?
Right. But is that... I mean, is that impenetrable in that she can't be stabbed? Because when I think of impenetrable, I think of, like, something so immune to stabbing that it just, like, glances off. So going through that, I feel like...
A heavily armored tank.
What's that?
A heavily armored tank.
Yeah, exactly. So, like...
Yeah.
I would think of that as, like, a poor description of Syl as well.
Yeah, dunno.
Yeah,
dunno.
Weird.
Alright, well...
Anyway.
I mean, what's next? Shallan is, like, trying to draw... She's trying to draw out all of your Theru.
Right, the landscapes, because Pattern made her finally face her past, and she's all mad about it, because she can no longer repress everything.
Yeah, Pattern's like, you hate me, and she's like, I do, and he's like, well...
Fine.
Could you not? Yeah.
And she's like, I don't hate you, I hate the sword. He's like, that's literally, we're the same thing. And she's like, shut up and let me draw.
Yeah.
So she's going through some stuff right now.
It's known now that Shallan is a Radiant, but they did decide to keep it hush-hush that she can produce illusions.
Right.
Or
at least
so that, I mean, that's cool. So she can still do some kind of covert operations.
Yep. And she's in the room with all the important people, you know, Renarin, Adolin, Dalinar, Navani. And they're all looking at maps, trying to figure out the Oath Gates and, like, which places to talk to first, to try to get those opened up, you know, whole unification plan. And she and Dalinar do this cool, like, duo Night Radiant power thingy where they make, like, a topographic map that's 3D. I don't know what you would call it.
Yeah, like a holographic super map.
Yeah, like a
hologram. That's made by, like, channeling the Stormfather's knowledge into Shallan's power.
It's like in
her illusion powers.
It's like all the people in charge of Westworld, and they're looking at that big map. That's what they do. Make one of those.
And then after that, unless you have anything else to say in there,
nah.
Now we finally reach the part where the copycat murder was discovered.
Right.
The murder victim is just some random dude from Sabario's army. Like, this is not an important person.
Nope.
Not a name we've ever heard before.
Yeah, and at the end of the chapter before that, it was like, a guy runs in, he's like, Bright Lord, there's been another murder. And I was like, ooh, who is it this time? And it was just some rando. I was like, oh, man.
Shallan is a little bit suspicious of the way Adolin is reacting.
Yeah, Adolin
to
is
this murder stuff.
bad at hiding his guilt, or at least
yes.
You know, wrongdoing.
So if that does come to a head with her kind of figuring out what's going on, I will not be surprised.
Right. And Renarin is acting super weird during this whole thing. I don't know if that's just him or if he, like, is doing some weird radiant power thing. Like, he heals Adolin's wrist. So that's the thing he does. That, like, that's a power we know he has now for sure.
Didn't Renarin say when he was first asked about his powers that he, like, sees truths or something
he's like
that?
a truth watcher.
So does Renarin, for some reason, like, know that Adolin did it? Or something?
I guess,
I don't know.
that's what it looked like. Because he was just like, he just kind of had like a 1,000-yard stare, and he was being all silent and pensive. And it was just weird.
And then we get to the part where Adolin goes off to visit Gallant because he's sad that his own horse is dead.
Yep.
And Renarin shows up and they chat, and Renarin, you know, gives him his shard blade back because he doesn't need it because now he can
use it.
just manifest one.
Yep.
It's just so weird because, like, with every other Night Radiant, we've gotten, like, a really close look at their process of, like, reaching this point where, like, now they've set a couple of oaths and they can do stuff.
Yep.
But with Renarin,
it's just all
it was like nothing, and then randomly he's like, "Oh, I'm a Radiant too," and now he's like, "I can summon a shard blade. Don't sweat it. I can also heal people." And it's like, I just would it kill Brandon Sanderson to, like, give us a one chapter from Renarin's perspective where we could just, like, really learn about this mysterious loser kid.
I mean, I think it's kind of like similar to Lift, where he's like, look, there's going to be a lot of Radiants, we can't get into all of them. And I mean, is Renarin a more important character than Lift? Yes, in that he shows up more often. But I feel like maybe there's like some mysterious thing about it that he can't tell us till later or something.
Maybe. I find myself just like, you know, I feel like I've always kind of disliked Renarin, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same.
And now the fact that he's like shrouded in all this mystery, it's just not helping. I feel like if I knew more about him, maybe I'd like him more.
I mean, I think he's supposed to be like a weird. I think he's supposed to be like weird and mysterious. I don't know. I'm alright with it because I assume that at some point there's gonna be like a reason behind it, and even if at the end of the day it was just like, yep, and he figured out all of his powers and he got over being so weird, I'd be like, huh, well, that was kind of strange, and then just call it a day. But yeah, I don't know. He'll figure it out, and if he doesn't, he'll go crazy and murder people. It'll be fun. We'll figure it out. There's
a part where Kaladin. In the last chapter, we get back to Kaladin. He's kind of doing the end of his whole deal, right? And Kaladin is like talking to this female Ardent in the last town he visits, right? And Syl is like, "Oh my god, she wants to bang."
Yeah.
And Kaladin is like, "Oh, Syl, come on, Ardents can't even get married." And Syl's like, "I don't think
she's not thinking about getting married.
What she has in mind." Yeah, and it was all kind of cheesy. And Kaladin faces more head on the fact that he is actually super into Shallan, right?
Syl just brings it up with no delicacy whatsoever.
Yeah. Syl is like, "Oh, but I bet you'd be into it with that Shallan girl." And Kaladin's like, "Yeah, I don't like it, but yeah, it's true."
Yep, and he's like, "She's a light eyes, we could never." And Syl's like, "What do you?" And he's like, "Stop talking about it. I don't want to think about it."
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah, and then there was a very funny line where Syl was talking about how she snuck into people's rooms to understand like how this happens, and Kaladin was just thinking about in the middle of being intimate, Syl just standing on the bed like cheering him on and giving him advice, and I was like, oh god, it's so weird to think about.
I mean, that's got to be a problem for every Radiant, right? Because their spread are always with them.
Right. God, it's gonna be so weird.
It's got to be just particularly bad with a Spren as childlike as Syl.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
That's got to be the worst.
Yeah.
Like, oh well.
Whatever. We don't need to get into it.
Renarin, alright, so we know that Renarin has this healing power, but we know that, of course, all of the Knights Radiant have 2 surges.
Right.
So what is Renarin's second? It seems to be related to some sort of seeing in a mystical way, right?
He's like a truth watcher or something. So yeah, my guess is that I was very much getting the idea that he like knew what Adolin did,
Yes, okay, sure, me too.
So I'm thinking he just like is like a human lie detector or something to that effect.
Yeah, I mean, can he see the future or can he see?
Because when he shook Adolin's hand or whatever, he like saw the like idealized version of Adolin, right?
Here. Or did Adolin see the idealized version of himself?
Oh, maybe. I don't know. That part was kind of hard to understand, but.
Are we supposed to know what all the surges are at this point? Have they all been said to us and I've just forgotten them, or?
No, I don't think they've been said.
Are there still somewhere missing?
I don't think they've been said in the book. I think Brandon Sanderson, I was reading about when he put out that little like survey thingy for like what type of Radiant are you? I think that was the first time that they had like all been revealed, and he was like, "Yeah, this is fine. This isn't too spoilery."
Okay, I'm looking at a list of all 10 because I should know this. I've read these books, right? And John, I don't see a single one of these that looks related to like seeing the future or anything like that.
Oh man,
holy moly! I don't know what it is. I don't know what he does.
Yeah, no. I mean, I would look. I want to take that quiz. I haven't done that yet because I was worried it would be spoilers. But maybe I will. But I don't know how much detail it gives or like what the deal is. But all in good time.
It gives some. Just read Oathbringer first and then take it.
Yeah.
We'll take it at the end of Oathbringer as a little fun bonus thing.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. We'll have some garbage time in between anyway. So.
Yeah, I think you might end up being a bondsmith. Same thing as Dalinar.
Oh, sick.
I'm not sure though. We'll have to see.
All right. Yeah, that'll be fun to find out. Oh,
Yep.
random thing. Call back to the first chapter, or the prologue rather. Didn't Eshonai, when he was like, yeah, we've learned, when Gavilar was like, we've learned to trap Spren and stuff and do things with it. Didn't Eshonai say like, oh, like gem hearts?
Yes, dude. Oh my god, like, I thought about that. I tried to remember to mention it, but I forgot.
Yeah. No, I was like,
so what this sounds like is the gem hearts at the middle of the chasm fiends have Spren trapped in them.
Right. Which is,
and like, we've also heard about all, you know, there are these Spren that you can always see following chasm fiends, right?
Yep.
So yeah, what's up with that?
Right, that's super weird. Like the heart of this horrifying creature is a powerful stone with the Spren in it. That's so strange.
It reminds me of long ago when Shallan was wondering at, you know, how do creatures so large survive when there's like so little food available in the Shattered Plains, right? She was saying they must get their food somewhere else and they just come here to pupate, but maybe they don't. Maybe they don't need
that much food,
conventionally speaking, you know?
Right.
Because they live on Stormlight or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I can see that.
I guess we'll find out.
Yep. Hey, all in good time.
Actually, the fact that the Chasm Fiends do, it sounds like, have Spren trapped in their gem hearts, and there was all this confusion about the Chasm Fiends maybe being the listeners' gods, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the Spren trapped in their gem hearts are in fact Void Spren.
Oh, yeah, it could be.
I don't know. That's kind of a.
That's
kind of a couple of logical jumps, but
right, because we don't know where Venli found the Storm Spren in the first place to, like, have Eshonai adopt storm form. So
yeah,
maybe that's
I suspect that we're going to learn a lot about Venli's past sooner or later.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and there was the whole thing in the last book, I think it was the last book, where it was like, Eshonai was like, have they taken this form before? Like, this is weird. So,
yeah, and she was saying that, Venli and her scientists it seems too natural for them to be in this form.
Right.
As if they've done it before almost, yeah. So that, definitely we're going to hear more about that, I'm like totally certain.
Yep. Seems sus.
Yasna came back to life. Well, I mean, she's been alive the whole time, I guess.
Yeah.
At the end of the last book.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen her yet. We're 10 chapters in. I kind of expected she would just...
I thought she'd pop in.
She would, you know, make it back to everybody else post-haste.
Yeah. Also,
but she's still not back.
Quick thing about the pre-chapter little thingies from Oathbringer, the book. The in-book book.
Yes.
Who is that written by?
I think it might be written by Yasna.
That's what it sounded like. It seemed like her kind of tone and like had some hints in that direction. But I was like, and it sounds like she wrote it after she, you know, had been reintroduced. We'll say, like since her time on the ship.
Yeah.
Because there was something she was like, I haven't died. Like something even worse happened to me or something.
Yeah, here, let me pull up all of the pre-chapter ones. I think a lot of them weren't very interesting. They were just like, I'm writing this book. Yep. And I was like, okay.
Right, I was like, I actually had the thought where, it was like, and so with all my free time, I've decided to write this book. I'm like, this would never be in a book in real life.
Yeah.
I'm like, your editor would just cut all this out right at the beginning.
Yep. First one tells us nothing. Second one tells us nothing. Third one tells us nothing. Oh. I am the godless heretic everyone claims. Right. She says in the third one, so it's got to be Yasna. I can point to the moment when I decided this record had to be written. I hung between realms, seeing it as shades, mar the realm of the Spren and beyond. So it's definitely Yasna.
Right.
I thought I was surely dead. I did not die. I experienced something worse. Bum 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 bum.
Yep.
That moment notwithstanding, I can say this has been brewing since my youth. These are all useless.
Right, yeah, I'm like...
The sum of my experiences has pointed at this moment, this decision. Please, tell us something!
Right. I feel like the editor, he's like, we gotta get rid of all this. Nobody cares. Just get to the story.
Actually, I think, honestly, like, the only thing these first 10 tell us is that Yasna is the author.
Yeah. I mean, I get the, you know, these
God,
sort of
John,
like as a lore dump sort of thing.
Now... Because I have them all pulled up, I'm also looking at the next ones.
Oh, no.
And they don't get better.
Oh, no. I was like worried you were like, oh no, I found a big spoilerino. Not that anything's a spoiler in this book.
I've read everyone through chapter 18 now, and there's still no information.
All right. Well, I guess we just know Yasna wrote Oathbringer, not why. We'll find out eventually.
Wow. Through 23, still nothing. Oh no.
Oh jeez.
Oh no. Oh god.
It's kind of funny. It reminds me of of Mice and Men, Steinbeck. Apparently, he wrote like a book that was like triple the size originally.
Oh wow.
And then he read back through it like before he published it. He was like, the story's just kind of in the middle here, so he just cut the two ends off and published it that way. And I was like,
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
This is a weird story. This isn't related to book, the one we're reading and doing this podcast on.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, hey, if that's all you came here for, get out of here, you filthy animals.
Well,
Thanks for listening.
Tell them what to read if we're sending people away.
All right, let me pull up what to read, and then after this, I'm going to continue talking about some kind of unrelated stuff. So if you want that, stick around.
If not,
let's see here.
Get out of here, filthy animals.
Sorry, taking a second to load.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. For next week, we're reading up through chapter 20. Wow,
okay.
Just 10 chapters a week.
Huh.
Hot dog. Except for, well, actually next week that stops being true. But for these first 2 weeks.
Nice and easy.
All right, yep, up through chapter 20. Pa.
All right, so
okay.
What other book we talking about?
I'm not talking about a book. It's an anime.
Okay.
I think it was called, like, Blue Exorcist or something. That is the name of an anime. I don't know if it's the anime I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Either way, I started watching it because a new season was coming out, and I was like, hey, hot dog, this seems like fun. And it was giving off the vibes that it was kind of like there's this whole, like, genre of anime, or, like, this, like, category that is just not very good, right? Okay. It's like all of it seems to be, like, the same sort of thing. Like, you have a bunch of high school students, and for some reason they're, like, super powerful, and it's a high school for people who fight demons or something, you know?
Right. Yeah,
it's like, this has been done, like, a million times.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not very interesting. But in this one, I was like kind of really enjoying it because all of these characters were being introduced, and they clearly had like history together, and it just felt like more intelligent than your average anime of this type, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And then I learned a couple of episodes in that I was in fact watching the second season, having never seen the first.
Yeah, you've told me about this. Yeah.
So I went back to the first season,
mm-hmm.
and the first season was written for toddlers, I think. It was like the slowest, they wouldn't give you any piece of pertinent information without telling it to you like 3 or 4 times just to make sure that you understood, right?
Right.
It was like so painfully slow.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's like in The Way of Kings, if Kaladin was like, and Kaladin found himself becoming a little bit stronger, and the reason he felt a little bit stronger is that he was actually drawing Stormlight, and the Stormlight helped him have more endurance.
It would be like Kaladin meets Shallan for the first time, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Kaladin. I like not being a slave, kicking back with my friends Bridge 4, the bridgeman that we all survived the chasms together with, and also, here's my friend Syl." And then Syl would be like, "Hi, I'm Syl," and then she would say 3 things that are about her.
And it's like all the characters when they introduce themselves to each other. It's like they're in a big, doing a big icebreaker game in the middle of a workshop.
Yeah, so like, I don't know, you saying that Mice and Men Man just cut off the 2 ends,
mm-hmm.
That's very interesting to me because I like the feeling when I'm reading something or watching something or whatever,
mm-hmm.
that these characters' lives, you know, they have lives outside the story, right? Stuff happened to them in the past, and it might even be stuff that we're never going to see in flashbacks. We're never going to experience. These are just details. Like it makes everyone feel more human, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
I really like that. So
and that was one of the things I remember specifically about Of Mice and Men is like they mention a thing that happened in the past, and it's like it's not super important to the story, but you know, like it makes sense. And apparently he had written that whole thing happening. And so when he cut out that part, he was like, "Oh, I'll just mention it and then, you know, get on with it."
Sure.
So, yeah.
But I don't know.
I like that they're fully fleshed out people. We're just seeing a moment in time.
Yeah.
It's like a dream.
Maybe
you just end up in the middle of the action, you know?
Maybe that's the one true way to write a good book, is to just, like, create the universe 1 year before the book starts, and then create a complete timeline of what happened to every character up to the book's beginning, and then you can start writing the book.
Right. I did read about somebody, I don't know, it was some famous author, I don't remember who, and her whole philosophy for writing books was like, she had like a general storyline in mind, and I don't know what genre she was, but she had kind of a general plot, had characters and all that, and she would just be like, okay, I want this scene to happen at some point, so she would write that scene. And just kind of did that a whole bunch, and then she would print out everything on pieces of paper and like put scenes that kind of like went together in piles, and then one day would just like have everything laid out and start like putting them in order, and then would write in between to like connect everything. And I was like, that sounds really cool.
I've tried doing something like that for Dungeons and Dragons before, where I would have, you know, a couple of moments that I was really excited about, and I was positive they would end up being really cool moments in the campaign, right? So I like wrote all of those, and then I said, okay, and now I have a kind of general idea for how I'm going to get from point A to point B, and I'm going to flesh that out at a later date, right?
Sure.
But then, of course, because it's D&D, nothing is predictable, and some of the moments ended up never happening at all, and you know,
right. Yeah.
Maybe a better strategy for book writing than D&D campaign writing.
Yeah, probably. But
well,
yeah, interesting. I don't know. I've been thinking about like just writing a lot in general now that I'm reading more, and it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I started writing a book. Did I tell you about that?
Yeah.
Got in maybe, I don't know, I think I wrote like 20,000 words or something.
Right.
And then I stopped.
Yeah, and then you were like, wait a minute. And then you overhauled everything in your mind, and you're like, well, this is not doing what I wanted to do or something.
Yeah. So I wrote one. Wow, that's actually like one half of Edge Dancer worth.
Yeah, that's decent.
That's a novelette.
Yeah.
A novella. That's a short little thing.
There you go. That's the problem is like I feel like I would want to. I mean, I like writing, and I should do it more, right? Like every time I do it, I enjoy it. I just don't do it often enough. And so I'd be like, I think it would be fun to write a book sometime, but I just like, I don't know. I don't sit around and think of storylines often enough, and maybe I should like, I don't know, because I took a. This is so off topic for the podcast listeners.
That's fine. Well, hey, we're already done with the podcast.
Now
we're just welcome to Sam and John's chill sesh.
Yeah, unfiltered.
And then we'll hit a joint. You know,
Hey, what's good? And so I took the class back in high school that was short stories and poetry. Right, it was all under creative writing, and man, short stories were so fun to write because I was like, there are no like stakes, right? I'm just gonna write about this one cool thing that happens or whatever, like, and that was the whole thing. And I loved like some famous short stories, really good, like I think it's called like Barns Burning by Faulkner, really solid.
Or The Egg. The Egg is a short story.
Yeah, The Egg's a great short story.
That's a really good one.
Right, and so like that seems, I'm like, maybe I should start by writing some short stories because that's a much like lower barrier to entry, I guess.
Yeah, more manageable. Yeah.
One of the guys we used to do improv with in Kansas City, like I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he writes short stories all the time, and he like enters them into contests and stuff.
Oh, cool.
And so he gets them published in like these little magazines of short stories or whatever, and he posts like where to find them online, and I read them all like, this is super fun. I could do this, you know?
Yeah.
So we'll both become famous authors someday, Sam. You with novellas, me with short stories. It'll be great.
I don't know if you ever listened to Brandon Sanderson's, like he does book signing videos. Have you seen those?
I've seen like one or two, but
on his YouTube channel. I'm
worried that he's gonna like spoil something from a book I haven't read.
I don't think he really doesn't do that.
Okay.
No, yeah. I don't think you have to worry about it. On his YouTube channel, at least, I think he does a pretty good job of keeping it spoiler free. And I don't know. I've like, you know, if you read the prefaces to some of his books and whatnot, his writing process sounds really, I don't know, maybe not interesting, maybe just enlightening a little bit.
Oh, what?
He was talking about, you know, for example, how do you come up with motivation for books, right? Or like, how do you come up with ideas for a story? And somebody, it might have been Brandon Sanderson or somebody else, another author, was making the point that you don't have to be I guess he was making the point that a great author makes a book great as opposed to a great idea for a story, right?
Oh, sure. Okay.
And apparently there was some author that decided to like prove this to somebody. He was being challenged on this idea, right? And he was saying, well, all right, give me any 2 ideas for a story, and I will combine them and write a book, and it'll be a good book, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And the guy said, okay, Pokemon and Roman legionnaires.
Okay.
And he wrote a straight up like Roman legionnaire Pokemon series. Here, let me pull this up.
Okay.
Roman Pokemon book, is it? Oh, here it is, the Codex Alera. A fantasy book series by Jim Butcher is the name of the guy.
Okay.
And I think that this has ended up doing really well. Yeah. The inspiration of the series came from a bet Butcher was challenged to by a member of the Del Rey Online Writers Workshop. The challenger bet that Butcher could not write a good story based on a lame idea. And he countered that he could do it using 2 lame ideas of the challenger's choosing. The lame ideas given were Lost Roman Legion and Pokemon.
That's amazing.
Bada bing, bada boom. And I think these books ended up doing really well, I want to say.
I mean, that's
I think it's like a long series now. I think it's like 5 books or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think the guy definitely proved his point. Like, he probably sold a lot based on like the concept of doing this alone, but I'm sure that there are also good books, and then had he not given the premise of the whole, doing this off a bet, they still would have done well. So,
wow, it's 6 books, and he wrote 1 a year for 6 years.
Oh my god, he was
committed.
Jeez,
he really committed to this bet.
Yeah, I've heard John Green's process for writing. He writes like I guess you describe him as like YA, kind of like romancy almost. But his whole thing is like he said his process is he comes up with characters. He just like really fleshes out characters super hard, and then more or less just kind of like puts them all in the same room and sees what they do. And I was like, what? What do you mean?
I mean, that's kind of how some scenes with Brandon Sanderson feel, or even Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Right. I mean, I think
actually, I think a lot of shows do this. Where like there'll be an episode where it's just like, okay, for this episode, these 2 characters are thrown into some situation. Let's see what happens, right?
Yeah,
and those often are episodes I really enjoy as a consumer of media, right?
Right, because I mean, anything in any given piece of media, you're invested in the characters. I mean, sure, the universe is also important, but like, I feel like it's mostly the characters. And I don't know where I heard this, somewhere along the line, but when people write a story or a book or whatever, they're like, yeah, it's either like character driven or plot driven, right? And I'm like, it seems like a bad like way to sort these sort into 2 camps any piece of media. Like, I don't think that's really true at all.
Yeah, you can do some of both.
Right. I think if a story is like plot driven, I'm like, does that mean it just has bad characters, but the guy had a cool story in mind and he was like, well, we'll just stick some randos in there to like get us from point A to point B. So, yeah. I think every story is character driven in some way or other, but
Brandon Sanderson apparently keeps a little like notebook of ideas for stories, right? So he was saying at one point that the way he came up with the idea for Mistborn, right, was this idea that first he was sitting there thinking like, I really like heists, but I feel like there aren't any like fantasy heist things. Yeah. So I'm gonna do a fantasy heist, and then he said that the idea for the entire like magic system of Mistborn, more or less, came from he was literally just driving through fog. And there was like one well-lit part of the road because it was like the lights illuminating like a church sign or something. Okay. And he like drove through this like well-lit fog and he could see it like all billowing around the car. And he was like, oh, well, there we go. There's that. Yeah. And it's like, wow, geez, all right. So, and he was saying he'll just like more or less accumulate these ideas, right? He'll just like see something in the world around him and write it down. Yeah. And then every now and again, he'll look in this book and like pick 3 or whatever, you know? Yeah. Well, and say, all right, that's.
I heard that as a process, like with because I listen to a lot of media from John and Hank Green, and I noticed like random stuff they bring up on a podcast like appeared in a book that John Green wrote. I was like, oh, I remember when they talked about that, and John Green was like, that's a really cool thing. And then I listened to some videos of Neil Gaiman basically saying the same thing. He's like, yeah, I see something cool, I write it down, and it might be in a story somewhere. So I have a note on my phone of just that kind of thing, just like fun concepts or ideas. So, maybe someday we'll do something with that.
Maybe someday. All right, let's wrap this up.
Okay.
I'm getting tired of talking to your dumb face, John.
Yeah, I want to get out of here.
I can't wait to not have to interact with you a single time until next week.
We moved away from each other for this express purpose.
Yeah, John, if this podcast wasn't the only, thing keeping me afloat financially, I wouldn't talk to you at all.
Yeah, I bet that's what's happening here.
All right. Hey, thanks for listening again.
Yep.
Did I say it the first time? I don't know.
I think we did.
Chapter 20.
Chapter 20. See ya next week.
Bye-bye.
This is where our outro music would play, but we don't have it.
Okay.